Joined now on the IdahoSports.com Prepcast by Bryan Stith, head track and field coach at Capitol High School. Bryan, thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So how many years have you been coaching track and field at Capitol High?
I've been there for 21 years.
21 years? You look good for 21 years in the public education system.
I don't teach, so maybe that helps me keep my longevity. I work for an engineering firm here in Boise, but yeah, I'm an alum of Capitol, and I was trying to still train a little bit after college. And my former head coach at Capitol was the head coach at the time in 2001, and he said, "Hey, if you're going to be out here training, help the kids," and that started it. And so,
yeah, about a month ago, I got to talk to Blas Teleria, the new boys basketball coach at Capitol, and he's a Capitol guy too. It's always exciting to see those former Capitol High athletes take over as coaches. What does it mean to be able to continue that tradition?
It's really important. I think especially I think it's a generational thing. I think my generation sees it as something that's kind of giving back, trying to provide a legacy and try to continue some of the foundations that you were taught as an athlete from your coaches. I think Blas and I both have, even though he's a little bit older than me, we both have people who taught us very similar. We both played for Steve Vogel. We both played basketball for Chuck Henry. And we're Capitol guys. Like there's some people who high school's not that important. I'm more of a college guy. Blas and I are big Capitol High. We're Golden Eagles through and through. So I think it helps. I think it helps a lot. I can share personal experiences with the kids about what it was like for me to be an athlete at Capitol High. And it's funny, my staff has there's four of us that are all alums of Capitol on my staff. So or five of us, pardon me. There's five of us now. So it's easier. I think it's easier. Coaches care more when they're coaching for their alma mater. And it's easy to gap that separation, even though we have different ages.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your coaching staff. Who do you have helping out?
So longest tenured coaches I have are John Doherty's been with me. He's at 21 years too. We both started coaching the same year. He's my distance coach, and he's also our head cross country coach at Capitol. Great guy. Ran at Clemson in college, and then made his way back west because he went to Bend Community College or Central Oregon. I can't remember. One of the community colleges in Bend. I think it was Bend Community College is where he went, and then he ended up at Clemson, and he just loved the Northwest, so he got back on the Northwest. Fantastic guy. Todd Simmons, head football coach. Started coaching with him in 2005. Awesome, obviously. He's one of the most well-known football coaches in the state of Idaho. So having Todd on my staff, and he's an amazing mentor for me. I can go to him when I need some help. He's been coaching longer than I have, and his rapport with the kids is phenomenal. The way he can talk with kids, the way he can motivate. And then when it comes to some more head coaching problems that I have, I know who I can go to because Todd has a pretty good solution normally. The rest of my staff is been with me for either I've coached them for a long time or they've been with me for a long time, just through our relationships. Casey Covington's my long and triple jump coach. Obviously, for anybody who knows anything about track and field, he's the most decorated horizontal jumper in the history of our state. He was an All-American triple jump. No one's jumped 52 feet in the state of Idaho except for him. He's jumped almost 50 feet at the state meet. So he came back after his stint at UW and wanted to coach, and where else but his alma mater. So it's great to have him. I've got Andrew Blazers, my pole vault coach. A lot of people know who he is. Probably one of the best track athletes ever at the University of Idaho. I think one year he won the male WAC athlete of the year. He beat out Colin Kaepernick and Kellen Moore for male athlete of the year. He broke some crazy record about total points scored at the WAC outdoor track and field meet. So I think that's what got him the win there. And he's a professional skeleton racer as well. So he does that. He's trying to make the Olympics next winter. But he's on my staff, and I coached him. He went to Meridian High, but I coached him through YMCA Team Idaho, the Junior Olympic team. So we've had a great relationship. My two throws coaches are Frank Rome, who was the head coach before me, and Rob Vine, who was our O-line coach. Amy Ciascio is one of our other hurdle coaches. She helps with Todd, and she's a teacher at Capital, and she does a great job. And she was a collegiate track athlete and a hurdler and a jumper, so she understands a lot of the different events. Christy King is my assistant coach. She graduated in 2010 with Kaysen. She was one of my athletes. Ran NAIA at Warner Pacific over in Portland, and I needed a new sprint coach a couple of years ago, and she was ready to jump on board. And then I'd be amiss not to mention I have Dee Harris on my staff, who's one of the greatest track athletes in the history of the state of Idaho. Dee had like 3 state records at one point. He still has the high hurdle record, but he's my high jump coach. He was a pretty talented decathlete at Stanford in college. And I've been coaching with Dee for 17 years through the Junior Olympic program with Team Idaho. And then he started coaching with me at Capital about 7 years ago. So I've got a really good staff, and we're proud of what we do. Dee Dee's also an alum. Dee Dee graduated from Capital in the mid 80s. So we do it. We believe in what we do as far as our alums, and then longevity with my staff. Obviously, with the relationship I have with Todd, I've known him for 17 years now, and John 21 years, and then Frank too. I've known Frank since I started. In fact, Frank was a teacher in the hallways when I was a student at Capital, so I've known Frank a long time.
That is a loaded coaching staff. Now, I remember when I was in high school and I was a teenager, and you're like, whatever, coach doesn't know what he's talking about. I know better than coach, right? Sometimes you get that, but you've got some really powerful names that have achieved greatness at the highest levels. How much cachet, how much street cred does that give your coaching staff with these athletes?
I think it helps. I think sometimes they look at myself or Darren, Darren, and we've aged. We can't do what we used to do. 10 years ago, I I'd jump with the kids in practice. When Kaysen was growing up, I would show him how to do stuff through repetitions. Same thing with Blaser when he was with Team Idaho. I think sometimes it's good for them to know what we've done or what we did. Kaysen and Andrew are still young, and so is Christy, so they can show kids. They're still physically capable of doing what they need to do. And it's funny, John Doherty's my oldest coach, but he was an all-conference in the ACC at Clemson. He's probably, between him and Kaysen, they've probably got some of the strongest collegiate accolades, and no one would know that John was a superstar in the 10K. So just by looking at him. But I think it allows street cred, but I think it also allows us to tell stories. I think the biggest way to get kids to believe that coaches are going to lead them to success is by sharing a narrative with them, and then being able to say, hey, I was here. I went to this school. I went through the hallways. We know what it's like. We know what it's like to go through and be a high school athlete. And if you have collegiate aspirations, we know what it's going to be like for you to go through those motions in college. What's going to happen? Because some kids, they just don't know. They don't know. They think college is going to be a lot like high school. And as anybody who was no matter what level of that, any type of collegiate athlete knows, college sports are way different than high school sports. The pressure is greater. The accountability and discipline is greater. And I think that's one thing that really helps us. And over the years, you may know that we've had some really successful collegiate kids go on to be collegiates. Sam Brixey right now, being the #1 guy in the West in the high hurdles at Washington State. I think our mentorship to them as they're growing up through high school can prepare them to be successful in college.
That's a great transition, because the latest to make that transition from Capital High to big time college level is going to be Megan Rose. She is going to the University of Utah, which is very exciting, Pac-12 program. And you look at the short sprints in the 5A leaderboard, and she's right there at the top or right within striking distance. What's it like to coach an athlete like Megan Rose?
Well, I think when you get someone when they're freshmen, you kind of say, okay, what do we have? What are their genetic makeup? What talents do they have? And I will say this. In high school, you can make a good 200-meter sprinter. You can make a good 400-meter sprinter. But the 100-meter sprinter, someone who's really talented like Megan is, let's be honest, she's 0.08 of a second away from the state meet record. There's only 2 girls that have ever ran sub 12 before in the state. They didn't count as records because the wind was illegal. 100-meter sprinters are born. You don't make them. It's just period. You just can't. Not at that level. Not at level. When we're talking about girls that can run, maybe 11.9, 11.8, that's genetics. And you just have to keep them healthy, and then you have to let them be fast. They're cheetahs. They're not workhorses. They're not, they're not they're not thoroughbreds. They're cheetahs. They want to run fast all the time. And if you ask her, how do you run races? All out. She tells me that all the time. How are you gonna run this race? She goes, I'm cruising. I am. She goes, I don't ever not run a race all out, whether it's the 100 or the 200. So I think the biggest thing for me is health. I do everything I can with my sprinters, with my team in general, is to keep kids healthy. That's our number one focus. We're not focused on times at all. We focus on PRs because track and field's a high performance sport. It's not like basketball. You can sprain an ankle. You can get a little dinged up in a basketball game. Football, you hear stories about kids playing football with, maybe a cracked fibula because it's non-weight bearing. Boys playing the rest of their offensive line career with a torn ACL. You hear about it. That doesn't happen in track and field. So at a high performance sport, my main goal is to make sure all of my athletes are as healthy as possible and we stay healthy because we need to be at 98% or better to do great things.
Yeah, I like how you talk about focusing on PRs at each meet because I see it so often where right out of the gate, first meet of the season, a kid will have a great distance or a great time and just everyone opens their eyes and goes, wow, what a performance. And then they never meet that mark again the rest of the season. How do you coach your athletes to make sure that they're consistently getting better and not hitting that plateau?
I think a lot of it has to do with our exercise physiology programming, the way that we go about approaching the season. It's definitely not an old school approach. It's more of a new school approach. I don't believe in training long intervals to short intervals, and I don't believe in training short intervals to long intervals. Our climate doesn't allow us to do fast stuff early in the year. So I have a couple mentors that I walked them through. We talked about Idaho's climate and Boise's climate. And so the way we train power to speed. We don't worry about race distances so much. Obviously in the 400, you have to worry about race distance. There's so many energy systems in the 400 that you have to teach the body to overcome what it takes to run a great 400. But honestly, if you're looking at the 100 and the 200, if you're looking at a really fast girl, you need to run 13 seconds or faster. That's it, 13 seconds. If you look at a really fast girl in the 200, 26 seconds, 27 seconds. That's all you need to teach them how to run. So it's not about fitness as opposed to learning how to create power and then turning that power into speed. And I think with the way that we train that and the way we go about programming our season, it does allow our kids to PR. And like if you look at Megan's season, she started and almost, besides running into a headwind, which we've had a couple times this year, when she's had a fair wind, I think she's PR'd every race, or she's had a season better run every time she's ran with a favoring wind. And that's important. It's important to be able to do that.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to watch her and Angelica Chapman from Lake City going head to head in those short sprints, the 1 and the 2. Another girl who has rewritten the record books this year is your pole vaulter, Lizzie Ramey. Tell me a little bit about her.
What a worker. You have to meet her and get to know her personality. She didn't even do sports before high school. She'll admit that she was not quite the most fitness motivated junior high athlete. And she decided she was going to take better care of her body going into 9th grade. She started doing hikes and going up in the trails and going for some runs. Well, then she joined our cross country team. And we found out that she had a gymnastics background. And we also found out that her 2 aunts are CrossFit superstars. Her one aunt, Darcy, that I went to school with actually, was one of the best CrossFit female athletes in the entire state of Arizona. And so she got into CrossFit at a young age. And if you see Lizzie, I mean, I've never coached a girl pound for pound that can lift as much weight as she can. She is phenomenal. She's 5'5", weighs about 125 pounds, but she can squat 260 and she can power clean probably 185 pounds. And she's just a workhorse. And when we knew that she had all those talents, we're like, ever thought about pole vault? She's like, I'll try it. Next thing we know, she loves it. Stacy Dragila has her pole vault facility right down the hill from Capitol. She got involved with Stacy, and if you've got the talent to if you can get inverted in the pole vault and you can get fast and you have a gymnastics background, next thing you know, you're a good pole vaulter. And so that's what Lizzie's story is. She got involved with Capitol Athletics. She wanted to pole vault. She got introduced to Stacy. Stacy really helped her grow in her craft. Obviously, when you're getting coached by someone who's got an Olympic gold medal, things aren't going to be too bad. And then couple that with Blaser being a great pole vault coach, and he was a great pole vaulter in college. And he communicates with Stacy really, really well. And so the two of them together, between what Lizzie does outside of our season with Stacy and then comes into what we do, and the transition to Andrew, it just goes really, really well. And she's a team player too. That's the cool part about Lizzie. Like she runs lead leg on our 4x1, which has got one of the fastest times in the state. We're going to try her out in the 4x2 this week. She's willing to do anything. She wants our girls team to be really successful, and it shows. Like it shows. She vaults not just to get another school record herself, but she vaults to make the team better. Like she wants the most for our girls team, and you can see it.
Yeah, let's talk about that girls team race. I mean, when you look down the road at the state meet, I think the Capitol girls are right in the mix. Boise High kind of has a stranglehold on those mid to long distance races. I really think that's the only hurdle because everything else is kind of spread out amongst all the other teams. Where do you see the Capitol High girls fitting in?
I think we got a shot. We need to do some things that are important at the end of the year. They always say district and state, cream rises to the top. And we've got to find out who wants to help us achieve some greatness. I think we do some things in the jumps and the throws that are really good. Late in the year, I think we have a way of teaching kids to peak and to be at their best when it counts. Obviously, we've got a really good sprinter in Megan, and our relays are dependent on her. But we also have girls that are stepping up to the plate right now to help her in those relays. Like I said, with Lizzie, and I've got two other senior girls that are part of that 4x1. I have 4 seniors on my 4x1, and they look at the rankings right now. We haven't had a great race against anybody since we were against Boise High. And if we look at it, we think our girls team can run fast enough to be the state champs in the 4x1. Helps having the fastest girl in the state on the backstretch. I'll tell you what, when she's running second and she gets to run that flying backstretch and hand it off at a fast speed to our third runner, it helps. And I think you're right on the Boise girls team. We've had a couple of jokes that the only way I think Boise High girls aren't winning state is if Thanos snaps his fingers. So that whole staff over there, I know a lot of them really well. What a great job they've done. And what an unbelievably just ridiculous collection of talent. And we, if you look at it right now, it looks like Boise High is going to score 140 points at the state meet. And maybe it's going to take 75 to get second. I mean, they're going to win by so much that we like our chances. But again, there's other teams that have really good opportunities of getting a trophy. I think the Timberline girls look really good on paper. Ty's doing a good job. He's got 2 of the faster 800-meter runners in the state. He's got, Brooke Roldan's doing an amazing job in the 400. He's got some jumpers. Timberline's going to be tough. Then you look at Rocky. I think Rocky's got some talent over there. I think they're in the mix. I think Eagle High's got some talent with Lizzie Dildine leading the way. And then you got to watch out for Lake City with Chapman. And she's just like Megan, right? I've got a 1-2 in Megan. They've got a 2-4 in Chapman. And I don't run Megan in the 4 for a reason. First of all, she hates it.
I don't think anybody likes the 4.
Oh no, the ones that are good at it, they love it. They love it. They love it. I've got a couple boys that they live and die around the 4. They love it. They love the feeling of that. It's the hardest race in high school. It is. It's not in college. I think the 400 hurdles is harder, obviously. But I think in high school, the 400 meter dash ran well. ran well. It was the hardest race. And when you're good at it, that self-satisfaction of accomplishing something that's really hard. It is really hard. The 400's a beast. But it's going to be fun. And don't for a second think that Kyla Palmer from Rocky Mountain's not going to be in the mix there in the 2. Whoever runs, I'm going to tell you this, all 3 girls are probably going to run sub 25 seconds at state. You've got 2 that run different. Megan's a speed demon. She's gonna get out fast and she's gonna just go. Those other 2 are strong. They're strong, but Chapman, Palmer, and Rose is going to be one heck of a 200-meter race at the state meet. And the question for Lake City is, are they going to put Chapman in the open 1? It's really hard to come back from that 400 and run that open 1, or are they going to put her somewhere else? I'd love to see them put Angelica there. I really would, because that gives Megan someone else to race, because you cannot break a state record on your own. Dallas Burrows had Nick Bowens. There are things that are important when you're trying to go and reach a great success, and you need someone to push you there. And we need someone there in the 100 to help Megan get that sub 12 time. And then we need the wind to be right. The last 2 girls that broke that state record, unfortunately, the wind was illegal. And we need to have a true win. We need to have a legal win, or even just a small, tiny legal headwind, which would still be fine. I think Megan can run sub 12, even with a 2 or 3 mile an hour headwind. I still think she'll be able to run that fast. So, but everything's got to happen, and it's got to line up the right way. But I like her chances. I mean, I think she's definitely going to run faster in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And as she goes, our girls team will go.
Absolutely. Real quick, give us a couple of Capital High boys that we should keep an eye on as we get to districts and state.
I definitely, my 2 senior boys, they're having pretty good seasons. Justice Del Rio, he's one of the better long jumpers in the state. He's doing some really good things right now. He just got back. He took a 10-day hiatus to go see his family in Hawaii. He hasn't seen his grandma, I think, for over like 2 years. So I was sending him workouts, and he was doing them the whole time he was over there. And then came back, had a great practice Monday, had an amazing practice Tuesday. I think he can jump 23 feet in the long jump. We'll see if he can do it or not. He's a great triple jumper. He's going to run on one of my relays. And then Coyote Zimmerman, that's going to College of Idaho for a soccer track combo scholarship. He's one of the better triple jumpers in the state. And then he's been running on my 4x4 that I think's got a chance of maybe making it to the state meet. So those are my 2 guys there that are doing really, really well. They're leading the way. And, last year really crushed us on the boys' side. After the first meet of the year, obviously all of us only got the 1 meet in. Capital led 7 events in 5A after the first meet of the year. And unfortunately, I lost all those boys. I lost 12 seniors that had all gone to state the year before. So this is a big rebuilding year for us, but we'll have some kids do some things. We got some nice relays for the boys team. Obviously those 2 jumpers. I think I've got a couple 400-meter runners that might got a chance of making it to state. Connor Christie's doing a really good job. And again, how well does he run these next 2 weeks, right? It doesn't matter what you've done all year. We have a saying at Capital, May matters. I've been saying it for a long time. May matters. We don't have anything that we do in the state that automatically gets us to the state meet. We don't have automatic qualifying distances or times. And so what you do at the district meet determines whether you go to state or not. Tomorrow's our first championship meet. The city championship meet. It's the first true championship meet. And with the way things have been this year, with dual meets only for the Boise schools, we haven't seen a big track meet yet. So tomorrow's going to be exciting. We get to go against 4 other schools. It's awesome. The Timberline girls and the Boise girls and the Boise boys. I mean, Boise boys have got a great chance of getting some hardware on the boys team side. And so do the Bora boys. And so you put all those together, and then we add in old BK, who's everybody knows they're the powerhouse of track in 4A. They've got James Onumbosi and Paige T-Kip, but man, what a fun meet it's going to be tomorrow for the Boise City Championship. And then you throw in the Timberline girls. It's like, holy cow, it's going to be a great track meet. It's going to be a great track meet tomorrow, but we got to find out in the next 2 weeks which kids are ready to rock and roll and which ones aren't.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to be watching with an interested eye. Bryan Stith, head track and field coach at Capital High, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us, and best of luck here over the final stretch run.
Brandon, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Go Eagles.